Welcome back to Basic CSS on freeCodeCamp. We are in Use Clockwise Notation to specify the padding of an element. So instead of specifying an element's padding top, padding right, padding bottom, and padding left properties individually, you can specify them all in one line like this. Padding, we have 10 pixels, 20 pixels, 10 pixels, 20 pixels. These four values work like a clock, top, right, bottom, left, and will produce the exact same result as using the site-specific padding instructions. Use clockwise notation to give the blue box class a padding of 40 pixels on its top and left side, but only 20 pixels on its bottom and right side. So we see the blue box here. We can go there, and like it says, give it a padding of, on its top, 40 pixels. Then on the right side it would be 20 pixels. Then on the bottom it would be 20 pixels, and then on the left it would be 40 pixels. So we want to run this. We do see here the top is 40 pixels, the right is 20, bottom is 20, and left is 40. So let us run this. We did pass. Go next. Here, use clockwise notation to specify the margin of an element. So let's try this again with margin this time. Instead of specifying an element's margin top, margin right, margin bottom, margin left properties individually, you could specify them all in one line like this. Margin, 10 pixels, 20 pixels, 10 pixels, 20 pixels. These four values work like a clock, top, right, bottom, left, and will produce the exact same result as using the site-specific margin instructions. Use clockwise notation to give the element with the blue box class a margin of 40 pixels on its top and left side, but only 20 pixels on its bottom and right side. So here's that blue box. Go to the next line, do a margin. Let us remember that it was 40 on the top and left. So 40 on the top, and then 20 pixels, and then 20 pixels, that's bottom and right, and then 40 pixels again, and then let us run this. We did a pass. Let us continue. Use attribute selectors to style elements. You have been given ID or class attributes. You have been giving ID or class attributes to elements that you wish to specifically style. These are known as ID and class selectors. There are other CSS selectors you can use to select custom groups of elements to style. Let's bring out Cat Photo app again to practice using CSS selectors. For this challenge, you will use the attribute equals value attribute selector to style the checkboxes in Cat Photo app. The selector matches and styles elements with a specific attribute value. For example, the below code changes the margins of all elements with the attribute type and a corresponding value of radio. Here we have type equals radio. So anything whose attribute type is assigned radio will get a margin 20 pixels, 0 pixels, 20 pixels, 0 pixels. Using the type attribute selector, try to give the checkboxes in Cat Photo app a top margin of 10 pixels and a bottom margin of 15 pixels. We go to here. We're creating our own cool little selector thingy, which is a type assigned. Here, I'm guessing we put checkbox, type checkbox. Anything with type checkbox, we want to give a margin of 10 pixels, 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 10 pixels, top of 10 and bottom of 15 actually, 15 pixels, 0 pixels. Here are our checkboxes. We have that 10 pixel padding top and 15 pixel bottom. Go to the next one. Understand absolute versus relative units. The last several challenges all set an element's margin or padding with pixels. Pixels are a type of length unit, which is what tells the browser how to size or space an item. In addition to pixels, CSS has a number of different length unit options that you can use. The two main types of length units are absolute and relative. Absolute units tie to physical units of length. For example, inches and millimeters refer to inches and millimeters, respectively. Absolute length units approximate the actual measurement on a screen, but there are some differences depending on a screen's resolution. Relative units such as em or rem are relative to another length value. For example, em is based on the size of an element's font. If you use it to set the font size property itself, it's relative to the parent's font size. Note, there are several relative unit options that are tied to the size of the viewport. They are covered in the Responsive Web Design Principles section. So here it says add a padding property to the element with a class red box and set it to 1.5 ems. So here's a green box, here's a red box. We're going to do padding and setting it to 1.5 ems. And we can see that here. And like it said, ems is based on the size of an element's font. If you use it to set the font size property, it's relative to the parents, which we didn't. We use it to set the padding. So it says it uses the size of an element's font. So that would be whatever preset of the font is for our red box here. And we're doing it 1.5 of whatever that font size is. Let us run this. We did pass. So style the HTML body element. Now let's start fresh and talk about CSS inheritance. Every HTML page has a body element. We can prove that the body element exists here by giving it a background color of black. We can do this by adding the following to our style element. Easy enough. We go into our style and we do a body, and we're giving this body a background of, and we see our background turn to black. Run test, passed. Inherit styles from the body element. Now we've proven that every HTML page has a body element and that its body element can also be styled with CSS. Remember, you can style your body element just like any other HTML element, and all your other elements will inherit your body's element style. First, create h1 element with the text hello world. So let's go here, h1 hello world. Then let's give all the elements on your page the color of green by adding color green to your body element style declaration. So body color green. Then let's give all the elements on your page the color green. We did by adding the color green. Okay, we did that. Finally, give your body element the font family of monospace by adding, go there, font family monospace. We've seen it change. Run test. We passed. Prioritize one style over another. Sometimes your HTML elements will receive multiple styles that conflict with one another. For example, your h1 element can be both green and pink at the same time. Let's see what happens when we create a class that makes text pink, then apply it to an element. Will our class override the body element's color green CSS property? Create a CSS class called pink text that gives an element the color pink. Here, create a CSS class dot pink text, which will give color pink. Give your h1 element the class of pink text. Here's our h1. Let's give it a class of pink text. Now we have pink text. Run test. We passed. Override styles in subsequent CSS. Our pink text class overrode our body element CSS declaration. We just proved that our classes will override the body element CSS. So the next logical question is, what can we do to override our pink text class? Create an additional CSS class called blue text that gives an element the color blue. Go here, do blue text color blue. Apply the blue text class to your h1 element blue. Change to blue. Applying multiple class attributes to a HTML element is done with a space between them like this. Class 1, class 2. Oh, it says in addition to the pink class. Here it says in addition to our pink class. I forgot to read that. Here we do pink text. So it doesn't matter how they're listed in here, it matters how they're listed in here. The second declaration will always take precedence over the first because blue text is declared second. It overrides pink text. Override class declarations by styling ID attributes. We just proved that browsers read CSS from top to bottom. That means that in the event of a conflict, the browser will use whichever CSS declarations came last. But we're not done yet. There are other ways that you can override CSS. Do you remember ID attributes? Let's override your pink text and blue text classes and make your h1 element orange by giving your h1 element an ID and then styling that ID. So give your h1 element the ID attribute of orange text. So in here, let's do orange text. No, that's not going to be in there. Let's give it an ID of orange text. Leave the blue text and pink text classes. We left them. Create a CSS class. Create a CSS declaration for your orange text ID in your style element. So in here, we're doing a orange text and we're giving it color orange and it took precedence. Now it doesn't matter whether you declare this CSS above or below pink text since ID attributes will always take precedence. So even at the bottom or even at the top, doesn't matter. Run test. We did a pass. Override class declarations with inline styles. So we've proven that ID declarations override ID class declarations regardless of where they are declared in your style element, CSS. There are other ways that we can override CSS. Do you remember inline styles? Use an inline style to try to make your h1 element white. Remember, inline style look like, we give it a style in here. h1 style equals color white. Overrode all of them. Run this. Override all other styles by using important. Yay, we proved that inline styles will override all the CSS declarations in your style element. But wait, there's one last way to override CSS. This is the most powerful method of all. But before we do, let's talk about why you would ever want to override CSS. In many situations, you will use CSS libraries. These may accidentally override your own CSS. So when you absolutely need to make sure the element has specific CSS, you can use important. Let's go all the way back to our pink text class declaration. Remember that our pink text class was overridden by subsequent class declarations, ID declarations, and inline styles. Let's add the word important to your pink text element's color declaration and make 100% sure that the h1 element will be pink. Here's pink text. Let's go here and do important. Boom, pink text. Run test. We have now done it. So we will actually end this one a little bit shorter. We'll end it here and we won't really go into a coding exercise as we have done in the other videos simply because you guys can practice on your own. Nothing's really changed except we can do h1 that says hello everyone. Here we can do a paragraph. I love to talk to random people online and dance in the castles in the sky. So if you're wondering why they haven't showed up, it's because they're black. So what did we learn? We can do something like green heading. That's a class. And we're going to give it color green, color green. Why didn't it work? Because we haven't specified what we want color green. We go in here, we give it a class, and it's called green heading. Oh, now we have a hello everyone. Next, our paragraph, we'll give it a class of red para. Like, what the heck is that, right? Well, we need to make it red para color red. Now we have a red paragraph. So we learned about overriding. Let's say we want to override this green class. How can we do it? Well, we can do an ID of super pink heading. Color pink. Hasn't changed it, but let us go into H1, give it an ID. It doesn't matter even if it's after. We know that IDs take precedence over classes. Super pink heading. We did change it to pink, even if this was at the top, or even if we move it to the bottom. That is because IDs take precedence. We know that we can override that by doing an inline style, which is directly in our heading 1 element. Give it a color white, and it did change it. But if we had another H1 and said by everyone, and then gave this the class of green heading, it does get that green heading class. It does not get the H1 class. Well, let's first go in here and do H1, and it gets color purple. It does not get it because it has this class, which is higher precedence than the H1. But if we did do that in here directly, it would change it. And lastly, we cannot forget, we learned about padding. In the previous video, we learned that we can do within, let's say, our green heading here, we learned that we can do padding top 20 pixels, moved it here, and then a padding bottom, give that a 20 pixels. But instead of doing all that, we can simply do padding and then do something like 20 pixels, 100 pixels is probably going to push it really ugly, so forget. Let's do 10. See, we did that all to our green heading, which actually, there is no green heading. Oh yeah, we have it here. So we have that green heading there, and we applied, let's do, what's that? Top, right, bottom, and left. So we can apply that also to margin. 10 pixels, 10 pixels, 40 pixels, and we've seen that applied. So go ahead and play with this a little more on your own, get comfortable with it, and I'll see you in the next lesson.